What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It is August 29th, yes, 2025. And the market is still open, but it's in take your money mode. Anybody who's trading right now, unless you're an option seller, you are getting your booty handed to you. Yes, there is no movement happening. And so if you're stuck in trades or trying to trade this right now, well, it's a futile point. There's no reason to do it. However, the market has gone into vacation mode, but not before it paid us. I had a bit of a bias today, and I'm going to show you guys a screenshot of a text message that I sent to a group of friends of mine that live here in my neighborhood. As you can see, it's timestamped at 8:28 a.m. And I think that's when I basically solidified the fact that I myself was going to feel a lot more comfortable playing puts today than I was calls. I still waited for somewhat of a reason to take my puts, and I did scare myself out of holding on to the original puts, and as a result, I did take a second trade. All of these I called out in advance. By the way, we had a very good day in the community today. Not everybody was green, but hesitation's a son of a bitch. And that's what we have to work on trying to eliminate, right? That's not something you can do through somebody telling you not to hesitate. As you all know, that's just as effective as somebody who's telling you to calm down when you're in a rage. So it's probably annoying, but it's also the cause for a lot of people who constantly get in at the worst times, guys. A lot of times we become losing traders because our entries are horrible. It's not because the ultimate move is the wrong thing, but if you're getting in too late, you missed the best part of getting into that move. And then because of that, you're likely going to have to hold through an uncomfortable part, even if the move continues in your favor thereafter. And that's where we get in trouble, right? So it's very, very difficult to get yourself to the point where you're not hesitating when your trade criteria are met, right? You still want to see valid evidentiary proof as to why you should jump into those puts or those calls. And usually that's after the move starts to go in your favor or had already gone in your favor for long enough that you're now convinced it was going to work. But the problem is it already worked. And a lot of times you turn that into buying the bottom or buying the top and buying the pullback at the wrong time. It's you know what I'm talking about if you're an options trader. With that said, today was a good day. I'm going to go ahead and show you the charts before we do. Buy my book. I make a whopping $3 for everyone that you buy. So I'm getting very, very rich off of this, guys. Thank you for your support. But genuinely, I want you to learn how to do this. And if it's not my way, there's information in that book that should help every strategy, every style of trading that exists, because it's all based around price action, which comes from, well, support, resistance, and a couple of simple indications that may add some probabilities to your chances of winning. Also, if you'd like to join my Discord community, well, we'd love to have you. Links are down below. But without further ado, let's get into the charts. This morning, I was looking for calls to start. I say that having just told you that I was prepared for puts. The only reason, and I'll justify this, and again, if you're in the room, you know everything I say in these videos is accurate because you hear me say it in real time then. And in the videos, I have to reiterate what was going on if you're not in the room. We were in a very, very tight range here in Qs for, well, a solid 45 minutes to an hour leading into the open. And we defined our put line as being 574.50. And our call line was if we can get above 575.12. We did add a little bit more to it. I said I would wait for a close above the call line today, personally speaking. But for the put line, we're hoping to get from our original put line down to the blue line. That was the hope in this trade. Okay. That's how we wanted it to start. Now, as I had told you, I was originally expecting to be ready for calls because at 9:26, after we were just finished drawing the call put line, I do these at 9:25. I do all of my charting at 8:30 in the morning. So in that screenshot I showed you, I was already anticipating the market to have difficult times going up. As I sent that text message out to my buddies 2 minutes before the time I even sit down to start charting. So I think I was creating a bias for me, but there was justifies, reasons for such. But nonetheless, as 9:25 came in, we started to push up pretty aggressively to our call line. And because of that, I had said, guys, I'm going to be prepared for calls, because if we open anywhere near the call line and I'm ready for puts, I won't have enough time to switch over to calls to take the trade. But 2 minutes after we put the call line on the chart, we started to sell off. And I said to everybody, okay, and this was at 9:29. I said, never mind, scratch that. I will be ready for puts. And the opening candle pushed up, came down. It wasn't a very fast moving candle, but the minute we breached the put line, I got in. Now, at this point, a little overzealous. I paid a premium for those contracts because, well, it was basically at the bottom of this candle almost. And ADD was printing green. So at first I was like, man, did I make a mistake? And it was very uncomfortable, especially while we were bouncing around, up and down here. I did say at this point, I said, man, I probably should have waited for that candle close, because if we do that, I think the move gets a lot more comfortable. Again, if you're in the room with me, you know exactly what I'm saying. It's true because I say this stuff live on the microphone. So I was in the trade. And at this point, somebody had asked me, Jimmy, are you already in? I said, yes. And this was before this candle started to pull back. I said, but uncomfortably so. Maybe a little aggressive, but nonetheless, I was ready. I took it, and well, it's time to ride the wave and see where it goes. As we started to move down, we finally got that close at 9:32 below the put line. And again, we're not looking for a big move. In this case, it was about a 40-cent move down to the next line. That's enough to pay us. And the unfortunate part is even though the Qs was doing its thing, ADD was still trying to print green, which was stopping SPY from gaining ground. So I started to get really uncomfortable in my trade, teetering between red and green and red and green. And I'm telling people, guys, if you're in this trade already, this is an uncomfortable one. There's moments where we're getting into profit. There's moments we're pulling back and we're out of profit. We're at a loss. Don't hold on too long. If you start to feel too uncomfortable, protect your money, put in a stop loss. Now, at this point, I had made the determination, and I also shared it very much out loud, that I wanted to, at this point, even though we started to slowly get into profit, I said, I'd really like to get $100 a contract out of this trade. Fortunately, that happened for me at 9:35. I got out of the trade. As soon as I got out, mark my words, I said, I'm going to pay dearly for that decision. Meaning, I believed that we had more room to go. The reason I didn't stay in the trade is because of two things. Number one, I held through some uncomfortable times, being overly aggressive, which I'm okay with being aggressive. But more importantly, I know there's people only taking the trades I take or trying to take the same trades I take. And I started to worry for them because of how slow this move was going down. Now, if you don't do what I do for a living, which is try to help people learn how to do this, you can't have a conscience. Unfortunately for me, I have a conscience. So I was aware of the fact that there were people in this trade only because I was. And I was also aware of the fact that many people don't get out of the trade until I do. That is a heavy thing to carry. Now, I'm not asking anybody to feel bad for me, but if you don't do this, you can't understand it. Now, we have people that fill in for me sometimes when I'm on vacation or I'm sick or I got something to do with my kids. They know the feeling because they feel it instantly for the same reasons. I care about people and I care about your well-being. And I know people are doing this when they really can't afford to, or they're playing too big of a position. That weighs on me. It changes the way I trade publicly. Okay? I'm not taking trades that I can't afford to go to zero. I'm not taking a trade that I'm not comfortable taking, meaning I was okay getting into this trade when I did. And I was okay waiting for it to get down to at least what I was hoping to get was a minimum of $100 a contract. And then I worry about other people. So if this would have turned around and gone against me, I would have taken an L, but I was also worried that other people would have as well. So I stopped myself out of this trade and I walked through the whole thing while I was in it. So here's what my contracts are worth. Yeah, they're at 1020, 1030, 1040. I met my $100 a contract. I'm getting out of the trade. And then it continued to fall. Those things turned into over a 200% win, which was very, very frustrating. Okay. Long story short, we continued to put in lower highs. Okay. We pulled back to resistances, lower highs. We continued to move down. Right here, I said, guys, this is a lower high. As long as we stay below that trend line, we should expect this support to fail and we head down to the next support. Excellent. I don't know why I didn't transfer over that arrow. Please hold on a second. Excellent entry here. I didn't take this yet, but I was getting more frustrated that I took myself out of the first trade that I was in. When Qs got down to a line of support, it hit that level of support a few times. And we were having a hard time getting through it. And we started to print some more green after a nice move up on ADD. So that's where I start to tell people, hey, I don't know. I don't know if this thing continues to go lower. I don't know if it's going to break this support. I don't know. What I do know is that both charts currently are on a support level. And ADD for a minute there was flashing some green. This might just be another pullback in ADD that continues up. I wouldn't hold through that. Okay, that's just that's just the way I am. Because if I got in up there and I got out down there, I already made very good money and I'm happy with that. With that said, we pushed down. Okay, we got through a 945 report, which is why I didn't take this trade. And then we moved down, we hit support and we pulled back. I said it right here. If we close above this line, this is where I would stop out if I was in it and you were waiting and hoping for more. But this is also a lower high and ADD's printing red. I'm taking this. And I did. I'm expecting this support to fail and we had plenty of room to go all the way down to the next support. Now, the reason I stopped out of this trade was because we were getting into 10 o'clock and I didn't want to hold through 10 o'clock. Got into this trade here, wrote it down. It struggled to bust a little bit here. ADD started to print some green. 959 is here. We're 1 minute away from a report. I stopped myself out of the trade. Now, my first trade up here was 11.57% win. My second trade here was a 34.21% win. Now, at the time I got out, I was glad I did, but then we put in another lower high. And again, called it out. I said, guys, this is a lower high and ADD's printing red. We're likely to break this support and head down to our next target. And if we get through that target, ADD's still printing red. I talked people through this entire trade. So again, my lack of patience in the open got me into a trade that was uncomfortable for a brief amount of time that made me want to be out of the trade. Okay, so I cut myself short there. Obviously, it would have turned into a massive winner. And then this one here, I don't want to say it was a revenge trade, but I was already of the mindset that we're going to see some bleeding today. And ADD started to sing the song I wanted to see. We're putting in lower highs. We were in a downtrend. We called this pullback perfectly because somebody had asked me before the market opened, Jimmy, when exactly is the best time to buy pullbacks? I said, guys, if we're pulling back to a resistance on SPY and Qs and ADD is printing red while we're in a downtrend, that is the perfect time to consider buying a pullback. Let me show you something. We were in a downtrend. We were pulling back to resistance on both charts. ADD was printing red. This is the perfect time to enter this trade if you're looking for puts. Your stop loss is a close back on the other side of the trend line. Okay? That is your stop loss. So this was a perfect entry. And it worked a charm. Massive, massive win. By this time, most people were done for the day. We did start to get a little crazy here. Nobody's buying the bottom, hopefully, at this point. We had a double line of support here, which I said, guys, when we have two lines of support, close proximity to each other, just consider that level maybe being a little bit stronger than a single line. That's two levels of buyers that exist there. Are we going to get through them? I don't know. Is it going to be a little bit more difficult to get through them this time because there's more buyers here than a normal single line? Yeah, sure. Possibly. But all you have to do is put a trailing stop in, and if it keeps going down, you take advantage more of the move. If it pulls back, then you get stopped out with profit either way. And we were talking about how this got into a wedge and yada, yada, yada. Wasn't much to do here. The only other trade that we talked about at this point was when we moved back up here. I said, well, realistically, if we can get through this resistance here, we should head up to the next resistance. If we get through that resistance, you'd be looking for the next lower high up from there. Both of those played out, and this was the last one we talked about. At this point, the market really started to slow down and move more sideways than anything. And yeah, you're just dealing with some nastiness at this point. ADD is not really moving much in the way of up or down anymore. We had a nice sell-off, and now it's kind of flat-ish. Maybe that changes throughout the day. I don't know. I'm not going to be there to see it. Personally, I think that the market is in vacation mode. Remember, the markets are closed on Monday. But today was a necessary day. This month has been difficult for a lot of people. It's not been the most profitable month for me personally, and it's been rough for a lot of people. And when you have that kind of situation going on, and you're blessed with a day like the beginning of today was, and you're able to take advantage of a couple of these opportunities where it felt easy and it felt good and all of these things, that's when you have to learn how to stop chasing a specific dollar amount and allowing your confidence in your account to take a win. Okay? The number of people that go in one more time to make more money and actually take away from the money they have already made on the day or turned a red day even more red is way higher than you think. I want you guys to do an exercise. I want you to start keeping track of the number of times that you take more than one trade per day and mark down whether you are making money more often or taking away from what you've already made more often by continuing to trade through the day. Now, some people can trade all day long and somehow have no emotional attachments to whether they win or lose. I wish I had that. I don't. But for the vast majority of people, the emotions that is created from your first trade will carry into the second, and then that snowball just starts rolling. And before you know it, if you haven't done it before, that leads to blown accounts, whether it's prop firm accounts or your own real money. Okay, things can go off the rails really, really quickly. You have to acknowledge that that's the case for most people. Okay, we'd all like to believe that every time we go in to make things better, that it's going to get better. And that's what makes us keep wanting to do it. But the reality is, most of the time, we don't make things better. We make it worse. Okay, so sometimes you have to accept the red day, leave good enough alone, and live to fight another day. And some days you've had a bad month, a bad week, a bad whatever, and you have a nice, good, clean chart to trade, and you take advantage of that chart, and you say to yourself, man, this is such a massive move. I didn't make enough money today. That's only you telling yourself you didn't do good enough today. And just remember where that can often lead, which is undoing what you've already done. And many of you guys can't allow your confidence to take that hit again. Leave your confidence in a state where it can actually start to repair itself, because that's the key. The cost of the trade or the loss on the trade is the least of your worries. Okay, unless you're playing an absurdly obnoxious position size relative to your account balance, you should be able to afford to take losses. The problem is that your confidence may not be able to afford to keep taking losses, and then you're going to be hesitant in every trade you take, or you're going to get reckless. And both of those scenarios end up being very, very bad for your overall trading progression. Okay? So with that said, we are going to wrap this up. I hope you found some useful information in this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to join my Discord community, well, I'd love to have you. There are links down below. We'll be back at it again on Tuesday. If you want to learn how to do this stuff on your own time, right there. This book here you should get that. It's a good one. It's easy read, and I teach you how to chart and how to use those charts to, add some probabilities to your trades. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you all enjoy your nice long weekend. Stay dry, stay warm if you're up in the north. It's cooler up there. And if you're down here in the south, we're going to get rained on. And yeah, other than that, I love you guys. Thanks for watching. See you.